the range that we've been at for teams. So a lot of day-to-day agent, concerns about this math. Lisa, what's the agent saying right now in your office about the math problem for that George alluded to, where the seller's just like, I'm sitting at 2-3%, and where does the math start to make sense? How are you educating the agents? And then George, maybe some advice for all of us, for all the knowledge brokers, on how we can navigate through the math for consumers that are stuck in this position.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're really encouraging our agents to chat about with their consumers is looking at ARMs and buy downs as a short-term solution, because the
Mhm.
math is brutal, right? We can look at the difference between, an upsized payment is more than doubling for us. And in a market with an average price of 650, $700,000, doubling a mortgage is, it's a daunting kind of task to think about, right? So would love some thoughts and advice about, besides arms and besides buy downs, what are the options that are scripting that we could use to chat with consumers?
And I
I think
think,
that
George, sorry, just to jump in there, I think the
mhm.
number is, yeah, 83%. It is 83% of mortgage homes have a rate at or below 5%. So yeah, what's what should we be doing here, George?
Well, I think really, to be honest, I don't think there is a blanket approach that really will work for everybody. And maybe that's the tough answer. It's akin to, I know we have generally in this country a perennial question: how do we solve traffic? And I've heard a lot of proposals put out, but one of the most clear-eyed was a gentleman, I forget his name, who basically did a lot of research going back centuries, and pointing out that anytime you have agglomerations of human cities, the short answer is there is no practical solution to traffic. People will always try to find something, but with something we just have to deal with. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happening in the real estate market. I'm just saying in the short term, there's not a blanket approach. What do I mean by this? Example: if someone is nearing retirement, and is in a high cost market and they know they want to move somewhere else for lower cost of living. Think here, someone moving from Boston, San Francisco, New York to Tennessee, Texas, Florida. Um, Even if they have a 3% mortgage right now, but they're moving at a market that's lower cost, they could sell their house, take the equity, and have a variety of options, put a higher down payment, and even with a higher rate, their monthly payment is still not high. Take the equity, pay cash. So I'm saying this to highlight the fact that for a lot of people there are options beyond just, to Lisa's point, to your point. Well, you got to do an arm, or you got to do a buy down, or you got to do something. It really depends on what your life stage is and what your particular financial circumstances are. At the same time, there's no running away from the fact that you are somewhere in your maybe mid 30s, 40. You have you've got the second or third kid, and you're still in a fairly tight 3 bedroom. You want to move up. That math gets a little tighter, especially if you don't want to leave your market, because now you're going to look at a bigger home with a bigger price tag, plus um, a higher interest rate. And again, here I think the important thing to remember is people's circumstances are different. What do I mean by that? Some people are getting promotions. When I look at the employment data, wages, even in April, rose 4.4% on a yearly basis. Yes, it's still lagging inflation, at least measured by the CPI at 4.95, but it's a much better situation than it was 8 months ago when that gap was even bigger. So on balance, for some people, those wage increases over the last few months, or a job promotion, could compensate for those higher rates and actually make the math work. But again, these are not sort of the blanket, hey, if you do this, we're going to solve the market problem today.
The blanket approach is where agents are getting themselves into trouble. And
Yes.
George, I like how you broke that down into different buckets. A bucket that knowledge brokers should be paying attention to is 4 out of 10 homeowners, 42% own their house free and clear. So when you're trying to unlock inventory in your market, be aggressive in that bucket. The folks that don't have a mortgage. So if you don't have a mortgage now and you have a need or a desire to be in a different home, selling that home and moving your cash over, it's going to make you a lucrative buyer on the other in the negotiation, because you're going to have cash, and it's also going to give them one less thing to worry about on putting that home on the market.